The wind whispers across the parched fields, carrying not the scent of corn or wheat, but dust. The rivers that once shaped America's heartland are shrinking into memory, and what was once the breadbasket of the world now trembles under skies that refuse to rain. A silent disaster is unfolding, one that could turn the U.S. Midwest into a new Dust Bowl. The story isn't about the past, it's about right now. The American Midwest has long been defined by abundance. Stretching from Kansas to Iowa, Nebraska to Illinois, these vast plains have fed the world for generations. But for the first time in nearly a century, that identity is under existential threat. Droughts across the region are no longer seasonal disruptions, they are becoming chronic. The land is drying faster than it can recover, and every year farmers dig deeper into aquifers that are running out of time. In 2025, satellite data shows groundwater levels in parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma at their lowest since record-keeping began. The question now is not whether another Dust Bowl is possible, it's whether we've already stepped into its beginning. To understand what's happening, we must return to history. The first Dust Bowl of the 1930s was not only an environmental crisis, it was a man-made disaster amplified by greed and ignorance. Settlers plowed up millions of acres of prairie grass that had anchored the soil for centuries. When the Great Drought struck, those roots were gone and the wind tore the land apart. Clouds of dust rolled hundreds of miles, turning noon into night and choking cities like Chicago and New York. Over 3.5 million people fled the Midwest, the largest internal migration in U.S. history. Today, the technology is different, but the pattern feels hauntingly familiar. Mechanized farming, genetically modified monocultures, and deep irrigation wells have boosted yields for decades, but they've also stripped the land of its resilience. Fields once rich in topsoil are now compacted, nutrient-poor, and dependent on chemical fertilizers. The deep Ogallala Aquifer, which provides water for 1/5 of U.S. cropland, is drying out. In parts of Kansas and Texas, it's already gone, permanently depleted. What nature built over 10,000 years has been consumed in less than a century. The modern drought is not just about rainfall, it's about heat. Average summer temperatures across the Midwest have risen by 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit since 1950. This may sound small, but it has massive implications. Hotter air holds more moisture, meaning even when it rains, evaporation increases. Streams dry faster, soil bakes harder, plants wither sooner, and when farmers plow, they release even more carbon, which in turn amplifies warming, a vicious feedback loop that feels unstoppable. But the human cost is just beginning to show. In Iowa, soybean yields dropped by nearly 20% last year due to water stress. Corn harvests across Illinois and Missouri have fallen for 3 consecutive seasons. Ranchers in Kansas are selling off cattle because ponds and creeks have turned to cracked earth. Small towns that depend on agriculture are facing collapse as costs soar and incomes vanish. Some counties in Nebraska and Oklahoma have seen population declines not seen since the 1930s. The Great Plains are quietly emptying again. Scientists are warning that this pattern, longer dry seasons, shorter recovery periods, is a signature of megadrought. The term once described conditions in the medieval American Southwest, but now it's being applied to the central U.S. as well. A 2024 study by NOAA projected that if current warming trends continue, the Midwest could face Dust Bowl-level soil degradation within 2 decades. But the timeline may be accelerating faster than predicted. Satellite imagery from NASA's GRACE mission shows that groundwater loss across the Central Plains has already matched 70% of the depletion seen during the 1930s Dust Bowl years. Only this time, it's invisible. Instead of black clouds of dust, the new Dust Bowl begins underground. Water management lies at the center of the crisis. The Ogallala Aquifer, spanning 8 states, is the lifeblood of the region. It's a fossil water source, meaning most of its reserves were trapped thousands of years ago during the Ice Age. It does not recharge easily. Farmers tap into it through millions of wells to irrigate crops like corn, alfalfa, and cotton. But in many areas, extraction rates are 10 times higher than natural replenishment. Once those wells run dry, there's no easy fix. No river can replace it, and rainfall is too inconsistent. The policies designed to protect it have largely failed. Local water districts are reluctant to impose restrictions because of economic and political pressure. Farmers are caught in a paradox. They must over-irrigate to survive each season, even knowing it's killing the future. Subsidies often encourage water-intensive crops instead of drought-resistant varieties. Meanwhile, corporate agribusinesses buy up smaller farms, consolidating land and pushing for short-term profit over long-term sustainability. The result? An agricultural system consuming itself. There's another dimension to this crisis: climate volatility. The Midwest used to follow predictable seasons, but that rhythm is breaking down. Winters are shorter. Spring floods alternate with summer droughts. Tornado Alley has shifted eastward, while wildfires, once rare in the region, are now a seasonal risk. The instability is reshaping the land's very character. Some climatologists warn that parts of Kansas and Oklahoma could become semi-arid by 2050, resembling Texas hill country rather than fertile plains. That transformation would fundamentally alter America's food supply chain and global grain exports. The international impact would be enormous. The United States supplies nearly 40% of the world's corn and 1/3 of soy exports. If prolonged drought continues, global food prices could spike dramatically. Countries dependent on American grain, from Egypt to Japan, would feel the shock first. Analysts already warn that climate-related crop failures could spark a new wave of food insecurity, social unrest, and migration. The Dust Bowl of the 1930s reshaped U.S. society. A 21st century version could reshape the world. Yet, amidst this bleak picture, there are signs of adaptation and hope. Across the Midwest, scientists, engineers, and farmers are testing new ways to make the land more resilient. Regenerative agriculture, once dismissed as idealistic, is gaining momentum. By planting cover crops, reducing tillage, and restoring prairie grasses, farmers can rebuild soil health and moisture retention. In Nebraska, some have switched to dryland farming methods that mimic natural ecosystems. Drones and satellite sensors help track soil moisture and optimize irrigation, saving millions of gallons of water each season. Cities, too, are rethinking water. Kansas City and Des Moines are experimenting with large-scale water recycling and rainwater harvesting projects. Policymakers are exploring incentives for farmers who conserve groundwater, similar to carbon credits. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's new Climate Smart Commodities program is funding pilot projects that could pay farmers for measurable environmental benefits. But scaling these solutions fast enough remains the challenge. Every year lost makes recovery harder. The emotional weight of the Dust Bowl legacy still lingers in American memory. Photographs of blackened skies and broken farms are etched into the nation's conscience. The difference now is that this crisis is creeping, not crashing. There are no sudden dust storms to photograph, only the slow, quiet death of soil. But if we fail to act, the images of cracked earth and abandoned barns may return, not as history, but as breaking news. The irony is sharp. Modern agriculture, designed to conquer nature, has instead become its victim. By engineering the land for maximum output, humanity forgot that soil is alive, that it breathes, holds water, and remembers. The Midwest, once the symbol of human mastery over the plains, is now the cautionary tale of what happens when that balance is lost. The lesson from the 1930s was supposed to be simple: respect the land or lose it. But history, it seems, is whispering again through the dust. The Midwest's fate is not sealed. The same land that broke once before was also healed, through cooperation, innovation, and humility. After the original Dust Bowl, farmers, scientists, and the federal government worked together to create windbreaks, contour plowing, and conservation districts. These efforts rebuilt the soil and restored the plains to life, but that took decades. The difference now is time. The pace of climate change leaves little margin for delay. Some propose radical ideas like redirecting Mississippi River floodwaters to recharge the Ogallala or creating a national groundwater reserve system. Others call for rewilding portions of the Great Plains into carbon-sequestering grasslands. These ideas may sound extreme, but so is the reality. The American breadbasket is running out of water. And without decisive action, the world may watch a second Dust Bowl rise, this time not from ignorance, but from indifference. In the end, the Dust Bowl was more than an environmental disaster. It was a moral one. It asked how far people will go to survive and what they will sacrifice to keep a way of life alive. Today's drought asks the same question, but on a global scale. Can humanity learn to live within natural limits before it's too late? Can the same ingenuity that built industrial agriculture now be used to save it? Standing in a Kansas field, the ground feels fragile, the air heavy with history. The wind carries a faint haze, like a ghost of the past returning to warn us. The lesson is simple but urgent. Dust is not destiny, unless we let it be. The world is watching America's heartland, waiting to see whether it can adapt before the land gives up. Because if the Midwest becomes a dust bowl again, it won't just be an American story, it will be a warning to us all. If you believe these stories need to be told about the land, the people, and the planet we all share, subscribe to Crisis Lens, like this video, and share it to spread awareness. Together, we can turn attention into action before the dust rises again.